Have you ever felt like something was waiting for you, just beyond your sight, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to show itself? I bought the house because it called to me. I can't explain it any other way. It was a stupid decision, made on a whim, but I convinced myself it was perfect. It felt too right, too destined to ignore. The place looked clean, safe, and empty in the daylight. But I swear, the moment I signed the papers, I could feel something change, like the house was waiting for me to be alone. The first night, everything was fine. The silence in the house felt comforting, like I could finally breathe again after years of noise and chaos. But then, on the third night, something changed. It started small, just a faint scratching noise above me. I was lying in bed, almost asleep, when I heard it. A soft, repetitive scrape, like nails dragging across wood. At first, I thought it was nothing. Houses make noises, right? They settle, they creak. I convinced myself it was just some small animal trapped in the attic. I almost laughed at how jumpy I was getting. But the noise didn't stop. In fact, it got worse. The next night, the scratching started earlier. It wasn't a quiet, distant sound anymore. It was louder, more insistent, like something was pacing up there, dragging claws along the beams. I listened, heart pounding in my chest, waiting for it to stop. But it didn't. It grew closer. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was a raccoon, maybe even a bird. But by the fifth night, that excuse wasn't holding up. The sound wasn't just in the attic anymore. It was inside the walls. It moved from room to room, faster now, scratching, scraping, like it was hunting for something. Every night, it got worse, the noise creeping closer and closer to me. Then, one night, it wasn't scratching anymore. It was whispering. At first, I thought it was just the wind, a trick of the air moving through the old house. But as I listened, I realized it wasn't random. The whispers were rhythmic, deliberate, low voices muttering, almost chanting, like a dark lullaby just outside my range of understanding. No matter where I went in the house, I could hear them, rising and falling, whispering my name. I barely slept that night, every shadow in my room twisting into something sinister, every creak of the floorboards sounding like something coming closer. I tried to shake it off, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. Very wrong. The next night, I decided to confront it. I went into the attic, flashlight in hand, heart racing. I don't know what I expected to find. Maybe some old forgotten relic or a nest of animals. But the space was empty. There was no sign of life. No droppings, no scratches, nothing. Just dust and silence, thick and heavy. I should have felt relieved, but instead, I felt watched. As I stood there, I realized that the air wasn't still. It was moving. I felt something brush past me, cold and sharp, and for the briefest moment, I thought I heard breathing. Not mine, something else, right next to me. I froze, staring into the darkness, waiting for something to reveal itself. But the attic stayed empty, and then the whispering started again, right next to my ear. I ran. I didn't care how crazy it felt. I bolted down the stairs, slamming the attic door behind me. I didn't sleep at all that night. How could I? Something was up there, and I had no idea what. The next few days were a blur. I tried to stay out of the house as much as possible, making excuses to leave, but the dread followed me. I could feel it watching me, even in the daylight. The nights were worse. I could hear it moving now, walking, almost running through the halls. The scratching had returned, but now it was accompanied by something heavier. Thuds, footsteps that didn't belong to me. And then, one night, the door to my bedroom creaked open. I had locked it. I know I locked it. I sat up, staring at the door as it slowly swung open, the hinges groaning like something was forcing it. For a moment, nothing happened. I sat there, paralyzed, waiting for something, anything, to step inside. But instead, the footsteps began again. They weren't just in the hallway anymore. They were right outside my door. The air in the room grew colder, thick with a smell I couldn't place, like rotting wood and sulfur. My skin crawled as I watched the shadows in the doorway shift, as though something was standing just out of sight, watching me. My heart was pounding in my ears, my breath shallow and ragged. And then I heard it, a low, guttural growl, deep and unnatural. It came from the darkness, from something that wasn't human. I could feel it staring at me, even though I couldn't see its eyes. I could hear its breath, wet and ragged, as it stepped closer. The scratching started again, but this time it wasn't random. It was deliberate, scraping slow and deep along the walls, like something sharpening its claws. And then the whispers returned. But now they were clearer. I could hear them. I could understand them. They weren't just whispers. They were laughing. Low, guttural laughter, echoing around the room, mocking me, waiting for me to break. I should have run. I should have left the house right then and there. But I couldn't. Something held me in place, rooted to the spot, as the thing in the doorway stepped into view. It was tall, too tall to be anything human. Its limbs were twisted and wrong, bending at unnatural angles. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched too tight over its bones. And its eyes, those glowing yellow eyes, locked onto mine with a hunger that froze the blood in my veins. It grinned at me, its mouth filled with sharp, jagged teeth, and took another step closer. The growling grew louder, filling the room with a sound that was both a snarl and a laugh. It lifted one long, clawed hand, dragging it across the wall as it advanced, the screech of its nails piercing my skull. It was a demon. There was no denying it now. I could feel its malice, its hatred, seeping into the air around me. It had been living here all along, waiting for someone, me, to find it. And now that it had revealed itself, there was no escape. It lunged at me, its claws outstretched, and in that moment, I felt the walls of the house close in. It wasn't just a home anymore. It was a cage, a trap. It had been waiting for me, feeding off my fear, growing stronger every night. I had walked right into its lair. I ran, but I knew, deep down, there was no running from it, no leaving the house. It was part of me now. The demon was inside me. It would always be there, waiting, watching, scratching at the edges of my mind. It wasn't my house anymore.